They say architects build dreams, but I've spent the last 18 years constructing what I now realize was an elaborate house of cards. My name is Asher Belmont, and if you're looking for a hero in this story, you might want to keep looking. I'm just a 40-year-old man who designs buildings for a living and apparently can't design a marriage worth saving. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The morning everything started unraveling began like any other Tuesday in our pristine suburban paradise outside Chicago. Monica was already gone, another artist retreat at her country house on Lake Geneva. These retreats had become as regular as my morning coffee and twice as bitter. "Dad, Mom left her phone," Sophie said, walking into the kitchen with Monica's iPhone in her hand. My 17-year-old daughter had inherited her mother's artistic eye, but thankfully my skeptical nature. "Which phone?" I asked, not looking up from my blueprints spread across the granite countertop. Sophie paused. "What do you mean, which phone?" That's when I looked up. Sophie was holding Monica's regular phone, the one she'd been using for years, but I'd seen her with a different device just yesterday, something sleeker and newer that she'd quickly tucked away when I entered the room. "Nothing, sweetheart. Just leave it on the counter." Riley stumbled in next, my 14-year-old son looking like he'd been hit by a truck. "Is Mom making breakfast?" "Mom's at her retreat, remember?" Sophie said with the exasperated tone only teenage sisters can master. "Again?" Riley grabbed a box of cereal. "She's been gone like every weekend for 2 months." I folded my blueprints carefully, a habit that had served me well in both architecture and marriage. Measure twice, cut once. "She's preparing for her gallery showing." "Right," Sophie said, but something in her voice made me look at her again. She was staring at Monica's abandoned phone with the same expression I got when reviewing structural plans that didn't quite add up. The house felt different with Monica gone. Not empty. We'd grown used to that. It felt honest. No forced laughter, no conversations that stopped abruptly when I entered a room, no mysterious phone calls taken behind closed doors. I drove the kids to school and headed to my office downtown. Chicago's skyline greeted me like an old friend, all steel and glass reaching toward a gray March sky. I'd designed 3 of those buildings, each one a testament to the principle that a solid foundation can support almost anything. Too bad the same couldn't be said for marriages. My assistant, Carol, handed me my messages along with her usual sardonic smile. "Your wife called. Wants to know if you can handle dinner with the Kesslers alone on Friday. Apparently her muse is particularly demanding this week." Carol had worked for me for 12 years and had developed the supernatural ability to convey volumes of judgment in seemingly innocent statements. "Did she say when she'd be back?" "Sunday night, as usual, though she mentioned something about possibly extending the retreat through Monday." Carol's eyebrows performed a subtle dance of disapproval. Must be some muse. I suppose every artist needs inspiration. Monica's just happened to drive a Porsche and wear expensive cologne. The thought surprised me with its clarity. When had I become so cynical about my own marriage? When had Monica's weekend absences stopped feeling like temporary inconveniences and started feeling like relief? My phone buzzed with a text from Greg Kessler, my best friend since college, and the closest thing I had to a voice of reason. "Dinner Friday still on? Sarah's making her famous lasagna, and she's been threatening to force-feed us relationship advice again." Greg was a lawyer, which meant he approached problems with the same methodical precision I applied to building design. He'd also been asking increasingly pointed questions about Monica's artistic phase lately. I spent the morning reviewing plans for a new residential complex, but my mind kept wandering to Sophie's question. Which phone? It was such a simple inquiry, but it had lodged itself in my brain like a splinter. During lunch, I found myself doing something I'd never done before. I drove to Monica's gallery downtown. The space was elegant, minimalist, the kind of place where people spoke in hushed tones about emerging voices and transformative vision. Monica's assistant, a young woman named Chloe with purple hair and multiple piercings, looked surprised to see me. "Mr. Belmont, Monica didn't mention you were stopping by." "I was in the neighborhood. How's the preparation for the show going?" Chloe's expression shifted slightly. "Oh, you know Monica, she's so dedicated. Working constantly, even on weekends." "Yes, she's been spending a lot of time at the country house." "The country house?" Chloe looked genuinely confused. "I thought she was working out of that studio space in Lincoln Park on weekends. You know, the one she rented for the collaborative pieces?" I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Collaborative pieces? With that consultant guy, Zach something. He's been helping her with the business side of things. Chloe's voice took on a gossipy tone. "Between you and me, I think he's got a thing for her. He's always bringing her flowers and calling her goddess. It's kind of gross, actually." I managed to keep my expression neutral, a skill that had served me well in client meetings when budgets suddenly evaporated or city permits got denied. "Well, I should let you get back to work." The drive back to my office felt longer than usual. Zach something, collaborative pieces, a studio in Lincoln Park. None of this matched Monica's stories about solitary artistic retreats and communing with nature at the lake house. That evening, I found myself in Monica's art studio in our basement, ostensibly looking for a level I'd lent her months ago. The space smelled like paint and turpentine, canvases stacked against the walls like secrets waiting to be revealed. I wasn't snooping, I told myself. I was just investigating structural integrity. That's when I found it, tucked behind a box of brushes, a second phone, sleek and black, still plugged into a charger hidden behind her easel. My hands shook slightly as I picked it up. The screen lit up with a series of text messages from Z. "Can't wait for Friday night. The usual place? Bring the champagne this time. We're celebrating. Tell the architect you're painting landscapes. He'll never figure it out." The last message was time-stamped from that morning. "Missing you already, goddess. 2 more days feels like forever." I set the phone down carefully, my architect's training kicking in. When a building starts to show cracks, you don't panic. You assess the damage, determine the cause, and develop a plan for either repair or controlled demolition. Looking around Monica's studio with new eyes, I noticed other things. Receipts for expensive dinners at restaurants I'd never been to, a bottle of men's cologne tucked behind paint cans, a silk tie that definitely wasn't mine draped over a chair. I took pictures of everything with my own phone, documenting the evidence with the same methodical precision I used for construction sites. Then I put everything back exactly as I'd found it and went upstairs to help Riley with his algebra homework. "Dad?" Riley looked up from his textbook. "Are you and Mom getting divorced?" The question hit me like a punch to the gut. "Why would you ask that?" "I don't know. You guys don't really talk anymore, and she's never here." He shrugged with the practiced indifference of a teenager trying not to care. "Tommy's parents got divorced last year, and it started like this." I sat down next to him, looking at the equations spread across the table. Problems with clear solutions, variables that could be isolated and solved. Sometimes adults go through difficult periods, but that doesn't mean they stop loving their children. It wasn't really an answer, but it was all I could manage. Later that night, after the kids were asleep, I sat in my study staring at the photos on my phone. Monica laughing with friends at gallery openings, Monica accepting an award for emerging artists, Monica kissing me at our wedding 18 years ago, both of us young and stupid and convinced we were different from all the other couples who made promises they couldn't keep. My phone rang, startling me out of my reverie. Monica's name appeared on the screen, her real phone, the one she'd left behind. "Hi," I said. "Ash, Honey, I just realized I left my phone at home. I'm using the landline at the house. Interesting. The country house didn't have a landline. I'd designed the renovation myself 3 years ago, and we'd specifically decided against installing one. How's the retreat going? I asked. Oh, lots of inspiration. The lake is so peaceful this time of year. Her voice had that bright, artificial quality she used when talking to clients or my mother. I might need to stay through Monday. This piece I'm working on is really demanding my full attention. Of course. Take all the time you need. After she hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time, thinking about foundations and structural integrity and the difference between repair and demolition. Some buildings could be saved with the right reinforcement. Others were too damaged and needed to be torn down completely. The question was, which kind of marriage did I have? I've always believed that knowledge is power, but I was about to learn that some knowledge comes with a price. The morning after discovering Monica's secret phone, I made a decision that would have seemed impossible just days earlier. I was going to find out exactly what my wife was doing during her artist retreats. The drive to Lake Geneva took 2 hours, giving me plenty of time to question my sanity. Was I really planning to spy on my own wife? The rational part of my brain, the part that had designed buildings and raised children and paid mortgages for 20 years, screamed that this was wrong. But the other part, the part that had seen those text messages and smelled another man's cologne in my wife's studio, whispered that I already knew the truth. I just needed proof. The country house sat on a bluff overlooking the lake, all glass and steel and clean lines. I'd designed it myself as a weekend retreat for our family, back when we still did things together. Now it served as Monica's private sanctuary, a place where I was increasingly unwelcome. I had keys, of course. I'd also installed the security system and knew every inch of the property. What Monica didn't know was that I'd built the house with more than just aesthetic considerations in mind. Hidden spaces, discrete access points, and a security setup that could be modified by someone with the right technical knowledge. The house was empty when I arrived, but evidence of recent occupation was everywhere. 2 wine glasses in the sink, a men's watch on the kitchen counter, expensive champagne bottles in the recycling bin. The master bedroom, our bedroom, smelled like unfamiliar aftershave and recent activity. I spent 3 hours installing additional cameras and audio equipment, using my knowledge of the house's construction to hide everything behind walls and inside fixtures. If Monica wanted to play games, I'd make sure I knew the rules. The hardest part was maintaining normal behavior when I got home. Sophie was in the kitchen doing homework, and she looked up when I walked in. "Where were you? I called your office and Carol said you were out." "Site inspection," I said, which was technically true. "How was school?" "Weird. I saw Mom at the grocery store near the lake house." I froze. "When?" "This afternoon. I was there with Emma's mom, and we saw Mom coming out of the fancy market. She was with some guy." Sophie's expression was carefully neutral. "They were close, like holding hands close." The grocery store was 20 minutes from the country house. Monica had lied about being there alone, just as she'd lied about the landline. "Did you talk to her?" "I tried to, but she didn't see me, or pretended not to." Sophie closed her textbook with more force than necessary. "Dad, what's going on?" I sat down across from her, looking at my daughter's intelligent, worried face. She was 17, old enough to understand that her parents' marriage was falling apart, young enough to still hope it could be fixed. "I don't know yet," I said honestly, "but I'm going to find out." Over the next 2 weeks, I became an expert in surveillance technology and my wife's infidelity. The cameras I'd installed provided a crystal-clear view of Monica's weekend activities, and what I saw destroyed any lingering hope for reconciliation. Monica wasn't alone at the country house. She was hosting elaborate dinner parties, intimate gatherings with people I'd never met. The star of these events was Zachary Lane, a man I recognized from Monica's art world connections. He called himself an art consultant, though his primary skill seemed to be charming wealthy women and spending their money. Zach was everything I wasn't: smooth, confident, perpetually tanned despite Chicago's brutal winters. He wore expensive suits and drove a Porsche and called Monica goddess without a trace of irony. Watching him touch my wife, kiss her in the kitchen I'd designed, sleep in the bed I'd bought, filled me with a rage I'd never experienced before. But it was the conversations I recorded that truly opened my eyes to the scope of their betrayal. "He's so predictable," Monica said one Friday night as she and Zach shared wine on the deck overlooking the lake. "Asher thinks I'm up here communing with nature and finding my artistic voice. What does he know about art anyway?" Zach's voice carried clearly through the audio system. The man designs strip malls for a living. Office buildings, actually. But you're right, he has no imagination, no passion. Monica's laugh was bitter. "Do you know he still leaves me little notes in my coffee mug? After 18 years, he still thinks romantic gestures matter more than understanding." "Poor bastard," Zach said, but he was smiling. "When are you going to tell him?" "Soon. My lawyer says we need to document his emotional distance, maybe build a case for psychological abandonment, make it look like he drove me away." I paused the recording, my hands shaking with fury. They weren't just having an affair, they were planning to destroy me in the process. The recordings got worse. Monica and Zach discussed my assets, my business, my relationship with the kids. They laughed about my boring architect routine and made cruel jokes about my appearance, my habits, my complete obliviousness to their affair. But the most damaging conversation came during their third weekend together. Monica's friend Nina had joined them, along with another couple I didn't recognize. The wine was flowing and tongues were loose. "The best part," Monica said, "is that he's so trusting. Asher never questions anything. I could tell him I was flying to Mars for inspiration, and he'd probably pack me a lunch." "What about the kids?" Nina asked. "Sophie's sharp. She might figure it out. Sophie worships her father. She'll believe whatever story we give her." Monica's voice turned cold. "And Riley's too wrapped up in his video games to notice anything." "You're really going to take him for everything?" the unknown woman asked. "Why shouldn't I? I've wasted 18 years of my life playing house with a man who thinks romance means remembering to put the toilet seat down. I deserve compensation for that kind of emotional labor." The group laughed, and I felt something fade inside my chest. This wasn't just adultery, it was calculated cruelty. I started making copies of everything: audio files, video footage, financial records I'd begun investigating. Monica had been moving money, small amounts that wouldn't trigger alerts but significant enough to add up over time. She was preparing for war, and she assumed I was too stupid to notice. The breaking point came during their fourth weekend together. I watched through the cameras as Monica, Zach, and another man I didn't recognize spread documents across the dining room table. Financial statements, property deeds, business records, my entire life reduced to assets to be divided. "The gallery showing is perfect cover," the unknown man was saying. He wore an expensive suit and had the predatory look of a divorce attorney. "We'll document his absence from important events, his lack of support for Monica's career, his general emotional unavailability." "What about the domestic violence angle?" Zach asked casually. I nearly dropped my phone. Domestic violence? I'd never raised a hand to Monica or anyone else in my life. "Psychological abuse is harder to prove," the lawyer said. "But we can build a case around financial control, isolation, verbal intimidation, especially if Monica's willing to testify about feeling threatened." "I can do that," Monica said, without hesitation. "Asher has a temper. He's never hit me, but he can be intimidating when he's angry." I stared at the screen in disbelief. Monica was planning to accuse me of abuse to gain advantage in divorce proceedings. She was going to destroy my reputation, my relationship with my children, my entire life based on lies. That's when I realized I wasn't the victim in this story. I was the architect of my own destruction, and it was time to start building something new. I called in sick the next day and spent 8 hours planning. Not revenge, I'm not a vindictive person by nature, but justice. Monica wanted to play games with my life? Fine. But she'd forgotten one crucial detail. I was the one who designed the playing field. The first phase was simple. I started documenting everything. Monica's absences, her lies, her financial irregularities. I hired a private investigator, a former cop named Tom Riker, who specialized in matrimonial cases. Tom was expensive, but he was thorough, and he understood the importance of building an airtight case. "Your wife's not as smart as she thinks," Tom told me after his first week of surveillance. "She's gotten careless. Public displays of affection, joint credit cards, hotel registrations. This Zach character isn't exactly a criminal mastermind either. He's been bragging about the affair to half the art community." "What about the lawyer?" "Marcus Webb. Decent reputation, but he's not expecting opposition. He's treating this like a standard case of wealthy wife divorces clueless husband. He has no idea you're documenting everything." I felt a grim satisfaction. Monica had underestimated me for years, assuming I was too boring, too predictable, too trusting to fight back. She was about to learn that architects don't just build structures, we also know how to tear them down. The thing about being underestimated is that it gives you a tremendous tactical advantage. While Monica was busy planning my destruction, I was quietly building something she'd never see coming. A comprehensive case that would expose not just her affair, but her calculated attempt to frame me as an abusive husband. It started with the gallery showing. Monica had been planning this event for months, positioning it as her breakthrough moment in the Chicago art scene. She'd invited everyone who mattered: collectors, critics, other artists, potential buyers. It was supposed to be her triumphant debut as a serious artist, the culmination of all those weekend retreats. What Monica didn't know was that I'd been studying the gallery's blueprints. The building was old, converted from a warehouse in the 1990s, and its electrical system was a patchwork of updates and quick fixes. As someone who'd spent 20 years working with contractors and building inspectors, I knew exactly how fragile these systems could be. I also knew that the gallery's security system was installed by the same company that handled my office building. A few phone calls to my contacts, a story about needing to update my own system, and I had access to their installation protocols and override codes. The opening was scheduled for Friday night. Monica had been at the country house all week, making final preparations with Zach and putting the finishing touches on what she called her Liberation Collection, paintings that supposedly represented her journey from suburban housewife to independent artist. In reality, they were crude abstracts that looked like they'd been painted by a talented high school student. I spent Thursday evening making my own preparations. A small device attached to the gallery's main electrical panel, programmed to trigger a cascading failure at exactly 9 p.m., peak party time, when the gallery would be crowded with Monica's new friends and potential buyers. Nothing dangerous, just a complete blackout, followed by a very sensitive fire alarm system going off. Friday arrived gray and cold, typical March weather in Chicago. Monica came home that afternoon to get ready, and I watched her transform herself from suburban mom to avant-garde artist. Black dress, dramatic makeup, expensive jewelry I didn't remember buying. "You're coming tonight, right?" she asked, adjusting her earrings in the hallway mirror. "Wouldn't miss it," I said truthfully. She studied my reflection in the mirror. "You seem different lately. More attentive." "I'm trying to be more supportive of your career." Monica smiled, but something in her eyes suggested she wasn't entirely convinced. "Good. Tonight's important for me, Ash. This could change everything." She had no idea how right she was. I arrived at the gallery at 8:30, fashionably late but early enough to see Monica in her element. She was holding court near her paintings, surrounded by admirers and sycophants. Zach stood beside her like a possessive boyfriend, his hand resting on the small of her back in a gesture that made my jaw clench. "Asher! Nina Costas appeared at my elbow, wine glass already half empty. So wonderful to see you supporting Monica's art. She's been working so hard on this collection. I'm sure she has, I said, accepting a glass of champagne from a passing waiter. All those weekends at the country house must have been very productive. Nina's smile flickered slightly. Oh yes, she's been so dedicated, though I think she's had some help with the business side of things. She nodded toward Zach. That man knows everyone in the art world. I'm sure he does. I spent the next 20 minutes circulating through the crowd, making small talk and watching Monica perform. She was good at this, charming, confident, playing the role of emerging artist with practiced ease. Several people mentioned her transformation and her newfound creative energy. If only they knew what was really inspiring her. At 8:55, I excused myself to use the restroom. Instead, I slipped into the gallery's back office, where the main electrical panel was located. My device was exactly where I'd left it, a small black box no bigger than a matchbook attached to the circuit breaker panel. At exactly 9 p.m., the lights went out. The gallery plunged into complete darkness, and for a moment, there was absolute silence. Then the screaming started. Emergency lighting flickered on, casting eerie shadows across the walls, and the fire alarm began its ear-splitting wail. Sprinkler systems activated, sending streams of water cascading over Monica's paintings and the well-dressed crowd. Chaos erupted. People stumbled toward the exits, expensive dresses and suits soaked with sprinkler water. Wine glasses shattered on the floor. Monica's voice rose above the noise, screaming about her ruined paintings, her destroyed opening, her career going up in smoke. I helped an elderly woman navigate toward the exit, playing the role of concerned citizen, while secretly savoring every moment of Monica's public humiliation. Outside, fire trucks were already arriving, their red lights painting the street in hellish colors. "What happened?" someone asked. "Electrical fire," a firefighter replied. "Old building, overloaded circuits. Lucky no one was hurt." Monica stood on the sidewalk, her perfect makeup streaked with tears and sprinkler water, watching through the gallery windows as her paintings dripped paint onto the floor. Zach had his arm around her shoulders, but he looked more concerned about his own soaked Armani suit than her emotional state. 18 months of work, Monica sobbed. Ruined, all of it ruined. I approached them with what I hoped was appropriate concern. "Monica, I'm so sorry. Is there anything I can do?" She looked at me with wild eyes. "Do? You can't do anything, Asher. You never can. This was supposed to be my moment, my breakthrough, and now it's destroyed. Maybe insurance will cover." "Insurance doesn't cover humiliation," she snapped. "Do you have any idea what this means for my career? Everyone was here. Everyone saw this disaster." Zach whispered something in her ear, and she nodded. "I need to go. I can't deal with this right now." They left together, Zach's Porsche disappearing into the night while I stood on the sidewalk feeling a satisfaction I hadn't experienced in years. Phase 1 was complete. Phase 2 came the next morning. I'd been watching Zach's routine for weeks, and I knew he spent Saturday mornings at an upscale coffee shop in Lincoln Park, showing off his car and trying to impress younger women. The Porsche was his pride and joy, a gleaming red convertible that probably cost more than most people's annual salary. I arrived at the coffee shop at 7 a.m., 2 hours before Zach usually appeared. The parking lot was nearly empty, and I'd come prepared with a bucket of white latex paint, the cheap, thick kind that's almost impossible to remove once it dries. I positioned myself in the adjacent parking garage and waited. At 9:15, Zach's Porsche pulled into its usual spot, and he climbed out wearing designer sunglasses and a smug expression. He spent a few minutes checking his reflection in the car's mirror before heading into the coffee shop. I gave him 10 minutes to get settled, then made my move. The paint bucket was positioned on the parking garage's second level, directly above where Zach had parked. A simple pulley system, the kind any architect would know how to rig, allowed me to tip the bucket at precisely the right moment. 5 gallons of white paint cascaded down onto the red Porsche, covering the hood, windshield, and convertible top in thick, dripping latex. The sound of paint hitting metal echoed through the parking structure like a gunshot. I was back in my own car and driving away before Zach even realized what had happened. But I could see him in my rearview mirror, running toward his ruined car, his designer coffee cup falling to the pavement as he screamed at the white-painted mess that had been his pride and joy. The video went viral by Sunday afternoon. Someone had captured Zach's meltdown on their phone, him screaming at the paint-covered Porsche, trying unsuccessfully to wipe off the latex, finally collapsing against the car in defeat. The art community, already buzzing about Friday night's gallery disaster, found the footage hilarious. Zach became a laughingstock overnight, but I wasn't done. Sunday evening I called Nina Costas. Monica's best friend was also the biggest gossip in their social circle, and I knew she couldn't resist a juicy story. "Nina, it's Asher. I need to talk to someone, and I didn't know who else to call." "Of course, honey. What's wrong?" I let my voice shake slightly. "It's Monica. I think she might be having an affair." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Then, "Oh, Asher, what makes you think that?" "Little things. Phone calls she won't take in front of me. Weekends away that don't add up. And yesterday, after the gallery disaster, she left with that art consultant, Zach something." "Zach Lane," Nina said quietly. "You know him?" Another pause. "Asher, I think we need to talk. In person." We met at a coffee shop downtown, and I played my role perfectly, the devastated husband slowly realizing his wife's betrayal. Nina, bless her gossipy heart, couldn't wait to share what she knew. "I've been worried about Monica for months," she said, leaning across the table conspiratorially. "She's been different, secretive, and Zach, well, he has a reputation." "What kind of reputation?" "He targets married women in the art world. Wealthy ones, usually. He helps them with their careers, makes them feel special, and then—" She shrugged. "Let's just say you're not the first husband he's come between." I let this information sink in, playing the shocked spouse discovering his wife's infidelity. "How long do you think it's been going on?" "Months, probably. Since she started those weekend retreats." Nina reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I'm so sorry, Asher. I should have said something sooner. What am I supposed to do now?" "Document everything. Get a good lawyer. And whatever you do, don't let her know that you know. Not yet." I nodded gratefully, playing the role of the naive husband grateful for his wife's friend's advice. What Nina didn't realize was that she'd just given me everything I needed to complete Monica's social destruction. By Monday morning, Nina had shared our conversation with at least 6 other women in Monica's social circle. The story spread like wildfire through the art community. Poor Asher Belmont, the devoted husband, slowly discovering his wife's affair with the notorious Zach Lane. Monica called me at work, her voice tight with barely controlled fury. "We need to talk." "About what?" "About whatever game you think you're playing." I felt a cold smile spread across my face. "I'm not sure what you mean." The gallery disaster, Zach's car, Nina suddenly knowing about our relationship. "You think I'm stupid, Asher?" "I think you're paranoid, and I think you're projecting your own guilt onto me." The line went quiet for a long moment. When Monica spoke again, her voice was calm. "If you want a war, I'll give you a war, but you won't win. You don't have the stomach for what I'm capable of." She hung up, and I sat back in my office chair, looking out at the Chicago skyline. Monica was right about one thing. I didn't have the stomach for what she was capable of. But I was about to find out exactly what I was capable of, and I had a feeling it was going to surprise us both. The thing about declaring war on someone who's been planning your destruction for months is that they tend to escalate quickly. Monica's call on Monday morning was just the opening shot. By Tuesday, she'd launched a full-scale offensive that would have impressed Sun Tzu. It started with the police showing up at my office. "Mr. Belmont?" The detective was a tired-looking woman in her 40s with skeptical eyes and a Chicago accent thick as concrete. "I'm Detective Dana Morales. We need to talk about some allegations that have been made." "What kind of allegations?" "Your wife has filed a complaint claiming you've been harassing her, following her, vandalizing her friend's property, interfering with her business relationships." Detective Morales consulted her notebook. "She seems to think you're having some kind of breakdown." I forced myself to remain calm, drawing on 20 years of dealing with difficult clients and city inspectors. "Detective, I think there's been a misunderstanding. My wife and I are having marital problems, but I haven't harassed anyone. She says you've been spying on her, that you somehow sabotaged her art opening Friday night. I was at the art opening. I helped people evacuate when the fire alarm went off. I'm sure there are dozens of witnesses." Detective Morales studied my face carefully. "What about Zachary Lane's car? You know anything about that?" "Only what I saw on social media. Someone dumped paint on his Porsche, right? Terrible thing to happen. Your wife seems to think you're responsible." I spread my hands in what I hoped was a gesture of innocent confusion. "Detective, I'm an architect. I design buildings for a living. I've never vandalized anyone's property in my life. Mind if I ask where you were Saturday morning between 9 and 10 a.m.? "At home, having breakfast with my kids. They can verify that." It was true. I'd made sure to be home and visible for several hours after the paint incident, establishing an alibi that would be difficult to challenge. Detective Morales made a note. "Mr. Belmont, I'm going to give you some advice. Whatever's going on between you and your wife, keep it civil. Don't follow her. Don't contact her friends. Don't do anything that could be construed as harassment. Divorce is ugly enough without adding criminal charges to the mix." I understand completely. After she left, I called Tom Riker, my private investigator. "They're moving faster than I expected," Tom said. "Your wife's lawyer is good. He's trying to establish a pattern of stalking and harassment before you can file for divorce yourself." "Can they make it stick?" "Not with what they have now. But if you keep playing games, gallery sabotage, paint on cars, they might build a case. You need to be smarter about this." Tom was right, but I was past the point of backing down. Monica had declared war, and she'd made a crucial tactical error. She'd assumed I was the same passive, trusting man she'd been manipulating for months. She was about to learn otherwise. The next escalation came Wednesday evening. I was working late at the office when my phone rang. Sophie's name appeared on the screen, and I could hear tears in her voice before she even spoke. "Dad, you need to come home, now." "What's wrong?" "It's Mom. She's here with some lawyer guy and they're going through your stuff. She says she has a right to document everything because you've been hiding assets." I was already grabbing my keys. "Where's Riley?" "Upstairs in his room. Dad, this is really bad. She's taking pictures of everything and she's saying horrible things about you." I made the drive from downtown to our house in record time, my mind racing through possibilities. Monica was escalating the conflict, trying to provoke me into doing something stupid. She wanted me angry, wanted me to lose control in front of witnesses. I found Monica in my study with Marcus Webb, her divorce attorney, and another man I didn't recognize. They'd spread financial documents across my desk and were photographing everything with professional equipment. "What the hell is this?" I demanded. Monica looked up with a satisfied smile. "Asset documentation. Marcus advised me to create a record of our marital property before you have a chance to hide anything. You can't just break into my private office." "This is my house too, Asher. I have every right to be here." She gestured to the unknown man. "This is David Chen, a forensic accountant. He's helping us understand exactly how much money you've been moving around." I felt my temper rising, which was exactly what Monica wanted. She was trying to provoke me in front of witnesses, hoping I'd do something that would support her harassment claims. "You want to see financial records? Fine. But you do it through proper legal channels, not by ambushing me in my own home. Your home. Monica's voice turned icy. Funny how it became your home as soon as I started asserting my rights. Very telling, don't you think, Marcus? The lawyer was taking notes, documenting everything I said. I realized this entire scene was theater, designed to make me look controlling and possessive. Sophie, Riley, go to your rooms, I said quietly. No, Monica snapped. The children should see what their father is really like. How he reacts when someone challenges his authority. That's when I understood the true scope of her strategy. Monica wasn't just trying to take my money, she was trying to turn my own children against me. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Since we're documenting everything, let's make sure we get it all. Monica, would you like to explain to the kids why you've been spending weekends with Zachary Lane at the country house? The room went silent. Monica's face went white, then red, then white again. I don't know what you're talking about, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Really? Because I have some interesting photos from your art consultant friend's social media. Would you like me to show them to Marcus here? I didn't actually have any such photos, but Monica didn't know that. She looked at her lawyer, who was suddenly very interested in his notepad. We're done here, Marcus said abruptly. Monica, we have what we need. They packed up quickly and left, but not before Monica shot me a look of pure hatred. This isn't over, Asher. No, I agreed. It's not. After they left, I sat down with Sophie and Riley in the living room. Both kids looked shaken, and I knew I needed to handle this carefully. Dad, Sophie said quietly, is Mom really having an affair? I looked at my 17-year-old daughter, so smart and perceptive, and made a decision. Yes, I'm sorry you had to find out this way. Riley, who'd been silent until now, suddenly exploded. I hate her. I hate both of them. No, you don't, I said firmly. You hate what's happening, and that's okay, but your mother is still your mother, and this situation isn't your fault. Why is she doing this to us? Sophie asked. I don't know, sweetheart. Sometimes people make choices that hurt the people they're supposed to love. That night, after the kids were asleep, I called Greg Kessler. Jesus, Ash. Sarah and I heard about what happened from the neighbors. Are you okay? I'm getting divorced, my wife is trying to frame me for harassment, and my kids just watched their mother rifle through my personal files with a team of lawyers. Other than that, I'm fantastic. What can we do? Actually, there is something. Monica's been spreading stories about me being emotionally abusive, controlling, the usual divorce playbook stuff. I need people who can testify to my actual character. Done. Sarah and I will back you up completely. So will the Hendersons and the Kowalskis. Anyone who's spent 5 minutes around you and Monica knows who the controlling one is in that relationship. I felt a rush of gratitude for old friendships, for people who'd known me long enough to see through Monica's manipulation. There's something else, I said. I think Monica's going to try to take the kids. She's already started working on them, trying to make me look like the bad guy. Sophie and Riley are smart kids, Ash. They see what's happening. Sophie does. Riley's younger, more vulnerable, and Monica can be very persuasive when she wants to be. What are you going to do? I stared out my study window at the house across the street, where lights glowed warmly in the windows, and normal families were probably having normal evening conversations. I'm going to end this, I said, before she destroys what's left of our family. Thursday brought a new escalation. I arrived at work to find Tom Riker waiting in my office with a grim expression. We have a problem, he said. Monica's been busy. He handed me a manila folder filled with photographs. Monica entering and leaving various locations around the city. Monica having lunch with women I didn't recognize. Monica at what appeared to be some kind of support group meeting. What am I looking at? Your wife is building a case. Those women she's been meeting with, they're all divorced. Several of them went through high-conflict separations where they claimed abuse. Monica's learning from them, getting advice on how to play the system. I felt sick. What kind of advice? How to document emotional abuse. How to make controlling behavior claims stick. How to use the kids as leverage. Tom's expression was disgusted. There's a whole network of these women, Ash. They coach each other on how to destroy their ex-husbands. That's illegal, isn't it? Conspiracy to commit perjury? Hard to prove. They're careful about what they say and how they say it. Tom pulled out another set of photos. But here's the interesting part. Your friend Zachary Lane has been to several of these meetings. I studied the photos. Zach entering a coffee shop where Monica was meeting with 3 other women. Zach leaving the same location an hour later. He's not just sleeping with her, I realized. He's helping her plan my destruction. Gets better? I did some digging into Mr. Lane's background. This isn't his first rodeo. He's been involved with at least 3 other married women in the past 5 years. All of them ended up in nasty divorces where the husbands got cleaned out. He's running a scam. Looks like it. Target wealthy married women, seduce them, help them divorce their husbands, then move on to the next mark. Very lucrative if you don't mind destroying families for a living. I stared at the photos, feeling pieces of a larger puzzle clicking into place. Monica wasn't just having an affair, she was being manipulated by a professional con artist who specialized in breaking up marriages. Tom, I need you to dig deeper into Zach's background. Financial records, previous relationships, anything that might be useful. Already on it. But Ash, you need to be careful. If Monica's building an abuse case, any aggressive moves on your part could backfire. I'm done being careful. Monica wants to play hardball? Fine, but she picked the wrong architect to mess with. That evening, I made a decision that would change everything. I was going to stop reacting to Monica's moves and start making some of my own. But first, I needed to protect my children. I called Sophie into my study after dinner. I need you to do something for me, I said, and I need you to trust me, even if it seems strange. What is it? I want you and Riley to start keeping journals. Write down everything that happens, conversations with your mother, things she says about me, any pressure she puts on you to take sides. Sophie looked uncomfortable. Dad, I don't want to spy on Mom. I'm not asking you to spy. I'm asking you to protect yourself. Your mother is trying to manipulate this situation, and I want you to have a record of what really happens. Do you really think she'd lie about you? I looked at my daughter, so young and idealistic, still believing that parents always put their children's needs first. I think your mother is very angry right now, and angry people sometimes do things they wouldn't normally do. Sophie nodded slowly. Okay, I'll talk to Riley. After she left, I sat in my study planning my next move. Monica had escalated the conflict, bringing in lawyers and accountants and trying to turn my children against me. She'd made this personal, and she'd forgotten one crucial detail about architects. We don't just design buildings. We also know how to bring them down. The war was about to enter a new phase, and this time, I was going to be the one setting the terms. The endgame began on a Friday morning in April when Monica made her most devastating move yet. I was reviewing blueprints for a new office complex when my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Belmont, this is Janet Morrison from Riley's school. We need you to come in immediately. What's wrong? Is Riley hurt? He's physically fine, but there's been an incident. Your wife picked him up early today, claiming a family emergency. When we called to verify with you, she said you were unavailable, Mr. Belmont. Riley seemed very upset when he left. I was already grabbing my keys. Did she say where they were going? She mentioned something about the lake house. Mr. Belmont, I need to ask, are there custody issues we should be aware of? Not officially, but yes. I'll be there in 20 minutes. The drive to Riley's school felt like the longest 20 minutes of my life. Monica had crossed a line I'd never imagined she would cross. She'd used our son as a pawn in her game of revenge. Whatever sympathy I might have felt for her situation evaporated in that moment. At the school, Janet Morrison, the principal, filled in the details. Monica had arrived at noon claiming there was a family emergency, and she needed to take Riley immediately. She'd seemed agitated, almost frantic, and Riley had clearly been reluctant to leave with her. She kept saying something about protecting him from his father's influence, Janet said carefully. Mr. Belmont, I've known your family for 3 years. Riley's never shown any signs of fear around you. In fact, he talks about you constantly, your weekend projects, your help with homework. I'm concerned about what's really happening here. I called Tom Riker from the school parking lot. She's taken Riley to the country house, I said. This is kidnapping, right? Technically, no. She's his mother and there's no custody order in place yet. But it's definitely parental alienation, which family courts take seriously. Tom's voice was grim. Ash, I think she's having some kind of breakdown. My sources say Zach Lane dumped her after the paint incident. He's moved on to his next target. That explained Monica's escalating desperation. She'd lost her lover, her reputation in the art community was in ruins, and now she was lashing out at the only targets she had left, me and the kids. I'm going to the lake house. Don't. Not alone. If she's as unstable as I think, you could be walking into a trap. Let me call Detective Morales, get some official backup. Tom, she has my son. I'm not waiting for bureaucracy. I hung up and called Greg Kessler instead. I need a lawyer at the lake house in 2 hours, I said. And bring Sarah. I want witnesses to whatever Monica's planning. What about the police? They'll follow their procedures, which could take hours. I need to get Riley out of there now. The drive to Lake Geneva was a nightmare of worst-case scenarios playing in my head. What was Monica telling Riley? What lies was she filling his head with? My 14-year-old son was trapped in a house with a woman who'd proven herself capable of elaborate deception and manipulation. I called Sophie on the way. Dad, where are you? Mom took Riley out of school and she won't answer her phone. I know. I'm going to get him. Sophie, I need you to do something important. Call Detective Morales. I'll text you her number. Tell her exactly what's happening. Is Mom going to hurt Riley? The question hit me like a physical blow. 6 months ago, I would have said absolutely not. Now, I honestly didn't know what Monica was capable of. I don't think so, sweetheart. But she's not thinking clearly right now. The country house looked different in the gray April afternoon. What had once seemed like a peaceful retreat now felt isolated and ominous. Monica's car was in the driveway, but the house appeared dark except for lights in the master bedroom. I used my key to enter quietly, listening for voices. The house felt empty, but I could hear movement upstairs. Footsteps, drawers opening and closing, the sound of someone packing frantically. I climbed the stairs carefully, my architect's knowledge of the house's layout allowing me to avoid the creaky spots. The master bedroom door was partially open, and I could see Monica throwing clothes into a suitcase while talking rapidly to someone I couldn't see. Told you, he's dangerous when he's angry. You saw what he did to the gallery, to Zach's car. He's been stalking me for months. Mom, Dad's not dangerous. Riley's voice was small and confused. He's never hurt anyone. You don't understand because he's manipulated you. He's very good at that, making people think he's this nice, harmless man. But I know the real Asher, and I'm not going to let him hurt you the way he's hurt me. I stepped into the doorway. Monica. She spun around, and I was shocked by her appearance. She looked like she'd lost 20 pounds, her clothes hanging loose, her hair unwashed, her eyes wild with a manic energy that made my skin crawl. Riley, come here, I said quietly. My son looked between his mother and me, clearly torn. Dad, Mom says you've been trying to hurt her. Your mother is sick, Riley. She needs help. I'm not sick, Monica screamed. I'm finally seeing clearly. You've been controlling me for 18 years, making me feel small and worthless, and now you're trying to turn my own children against me. Mom, please, Riley said, tears streaming down his face. I just want to go home. This is about protecting you, Monica said, grabbing Riley's arm. We're leaving, going somewhere he can't find us. That's when I realized Monica wasn't just having a breakdown. She was planning to disappear with Riley. The suitcases, the frantic packing, the isolation of the lake house. She was preparing to run. You're not taking him anywhere, I said, stepping further into the room. Monica pulled Riley behind her, using him as a shield. You can't stop me. He's my son, too. Look at him, Monica. Look at what you're doing to him. Riley was sobbing now, caught between his parents in a nightmare neither of us had ever intended for him. In that moment, seeing my son's terror and confusion, I felt something break inside me. Not my resolve, my last vestige of sympathy for the woman who'd been my wife. It's over, Monica. Zach's gone. Your reputation is destroyed, and now you're traumatizing our son. This ends now. Zach didn't leave me, she screamed. He's waiting for me in California. We're going to start over, have the life I deserve. I almost felt sorry for her then. Monica was living in a complete fantasy, unable to accept that her lover had abandoned her the moment things got complicated. Riley, walk toward me, I said softly, slowly. Monica's grip on our son tightened. No, you're not taking him. You've already poisoned Sophie against me, but I won't let you have Riley too. That's when I heard car doors slamming outside. Greg and Sarah had arrived, followed by what sounded like multiple vehicles. Through the bedroom window, I could see police cars pulling into the driveway. It's over, Monica, I said again. Let Riley go. She looked out the window and saw the police cars, and something in her expression shifted from manic determination to pure rage. You called the police on me? On the mother of your children? I called them because you kidnapped our son. I didn't kidnap anyone. He's my child. Detective Morales' voice echoed from downstairs. Mr. Belmont, Mrs. Belmont, we need to talk. Monica looked around the room wildly, like a trapped animal searching for escape. Then her gaze fell on the window overlooking the lake, and I saw her calculating the distance to the water. Don't even think about it, I said. Why not? You've destroyed everything else. My career, my relationship, my reputation. What do I have left to lose? You have your children. You have a chance to get help, to be the mother they deserve. Monica laughed, a sound like breaking glass. The mother they deserve? You mean the mother you want me to be? Quiet, supportive, grateful for whatever scraps of attention you throw my way? I mean the mother who puts her children's needs before her own revenge fantasies. Revenge? Monica's voice rose to a shriek. You think this is about revenge? This is about survival. You've systematically destroyed my life, and now you want to take my children too. Detective Morales appeared in the doorway, her hand resting on her service weapon. Mrs. Belmont, I need you to let go of your son and step away from the window. Monica looked at the detective, then at me, then at Riley, who was still crying silently. For a moment I thought she might actually jump. Then something seemed to collapse inside her, and she released Riley's arm. Go to your father, she said quietly. Go to the man who destroyed your mother. Riley ran to me, and I wrapped him in my arms, feeling his small body shake with sobs. Over his head, I watched Detective Morales approach Monica carefully. Mrs. Belmont, I need you to come with me. We're going to get you some help. I don't need help, Monica said, but her voice lacked conviction. I need my family to stop lying about me. As the police led Monica downstairs, she looked back at me with an expression of such pure hatred that it made my skin crawl. This isn't over, Asher, she said. I'll make sure everyone knows what you really are. But I could see in her eyes that she knew it was over. Her elaborate plan to destroy me had collapsed, taking her sanity with it. She'd lost everything, her lover, her reputation, her children's respect, and now her freedom. Downstairs, Greg and Sarah were waiting with Sophie, who must have driven herself to the lake house. My daughter ran to hug Riley and me, and for the first time in months, I felt like we might actually survive this nightmare. Detective Morales approached me as the paramedics evaluated Monica for a psychiatric hold. "Mr. Belmont, we're going to need statements from everyone, but first, I want you to know I've been investigating your wife's claims about harassment and abuse. After talking to your neighbors, your children's teachers, and your business associates, I don't find those claims credible." I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. "What happens now?" "Your wife will be evaluated at the hospital. Depending on what they find, she may be placed on a psychiatric hold. Either way, I'd recommend filing for emergency custody of your children immediately." As we drove home that evening, all three of us in my car, Riley in the front seat where I could keep an eye on him, Sophie asked the question I'd been dreading. "Dad, is Mom going to be okay?" I thought about Monica's wild eyes, her desperate schemes, her complete break from reality. "I don't know, sweetheart, but that's not our responsibility anymore. Our responsibility is to take care of each other." "I feel bad for her," Riley said quietly. "Even after everything she did, I still feel bad." "That's because you're a good person," I told him. "Don't let what happened change that about you." 6 months later, the divorce was finalized. Monica was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and narcissistic personality disorder, conditions that explained but didn't excuse her behavior. She was given supervised visitation with the children, which she exercised sporadically before eventually moving to Arizona to start fresh. Zach Lane was arrested for fraud in connection with another scheme involving a wealthy widow in California. It turned out Tom Riker was right. He was a professional con artist who specialized in manipulating vulnerable women. Monica had been just another mark, though she never accepted that reality. The gallery owner sued Monica for the cost of the damaged artwork, which insurance didn't cover due to the suspicious nature of the electrical failure. She declared bankruptcy and disappeared from the Chicago art scene entirely. As for me, I learned something important about myself during those dark months. I wasn't the passive, trusting fool Monica had taken me for. When pushed to my limits, I was capable of strategic thinking and decisive action that would have impressed any military tactician. I also learned that revenge, while satisfying in the moment, was ultimately hollow. The real victory wasn't destroying Monica. It was protecting my children and rebuilding our family on a foundation of honesty and mutual respect. Sophie graduated high school with honors and chose to attend Northwestern, close enough to visit regularly, but far enough to establish her independence. Riley thrived in therapy and eventually forgave his mother, though he chose to live with me full-time. On a warm evening in September, exactly 1 year after Monica's breakdown at the lake house, I sat on my back deck with Greg and Sarah, watching Riley and their son play basketball in the driveway. "Any regrets?" Greg asked. I thought about the questions seriously. Did I regret the surveillance, the sabotage, the calculated campaign to expose Monica's lies? Did I regret fighting back against someone who'd planned to destroy my life and turn my children against me? "No," I said finally. "I regret that it came to that. I regret that Monica chose revenge over reconciliation. But I don't regret protecting my family." Sarah raised her wine glass. "To architects who know how to build and how to tear down. To fathers who fight for their children," Greg added. I looked at my son, laughing as he made an impossible shot from the end of the driveway, and felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Genuine happiness. Monica had tried to destroy my life, but in the end, she'd only succeeded in showing me what really mattered. The blueprint for my new life was simple: honesty, integrity, and the understanding that some battles are worth fighting, no matter the cost. As the sun set over our quiet suburban street, I realized that Monica had been wrong about one thing. I wasn't the boring, predictable architect she'd thought she could manipulate and discard. I was the man who'd outmaneuvered her at every turn, exposed her lies, and protected his children from her manipulation. I was the underdog who'd refused to stay down, the husband who'd turned the tables on his cheating wife's elaborate schemes. And in the end, when the dust settled and the truth came out, I was the one left standing while her world crumbled around her. Some might call it justice, others might call it revenge. I called it architecture, the careful, methodical construction of a life worth living, built on a foundation strong enough to withstand any storm.